Good afternoon and welcome. On behalf of the National Catholic Education Association, thank you for joining us for this professional development opportunity. I am Dr. Kim Gore, Director of Professional Learning at NCEA and facilitator for today's webinar entitled Sustaining the Rhythm, Growth, Philanthropy, and Building the Village, Steps 15 to 26. This is the third and final session in a three-part series titled The Cadence of Catholic School Development, Connecting the Dots. A few quick points before we begin. First, this session is being recorded and will be available soon on ncea.org, along with the slides from today's presentation. Next, the Q&A box is open, and we value your input. Please submit all questions and comments there. Please note that the chat is disabled, so we will ask you to use the Q&A box for all of your feedback and engagement. Finally, stay with us after the presentation, where I will share a survey link for you to complete to receive your certificate of completion. At this time, it is my privilege to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Frank Donaldson. Frank is the president of the Institute for School and Parish Development, a national consulting firm that supports Catholic parishes, schools, and dioceses in planning, stewardship, engagement, and resource development. He is the author of 6 publications for the NCEA focused on Catholic school development and advancement. Frank also partners with the Institute for Pastoral Initiatives at the University of Dayton to teach online courses in Catholic school and parish development that award continuing education credits. Over more than 36 years, he and ISPD have helped Catholic institutions across the United States with long-range planning, development training, and fundraising, raising millions of dollars while emphasizing that Catholic development connects people, process, and ministry. Frank holds degrees in English and education from the University of Louisiana at Lafayette and lives in Pearl River, Louisiana with his wife, Susie. At this time, I'm going to share a quick poll just to give us an idea of who is in our audience today. So if you'll please just take 1 second and complete this poll once everybody has had the opportunity to answer, I will share our results to see who we have joining us today. And at this time, it is my pleasure to turn it over to Mr. Frank Donaldson. The screen is yours.
Thanks, Kim, and welcome everyone. This is the third and final presentation. And so obviously we are working out of the book that we recently wrote, The Cadence of Catholic School Development Advancement, Connecting the Dots. So I'm going to begin with the same prayer we used in the last presentation because I wanted to refer to it because it is on page 127 of the book. And so let's go ahead and begin. And let us remember we're in God's holy presence. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. God of abundance and grace, you have entrusted us with the sacred mission of Catholic education to form young hearts, inspire faithful minds, and shape a world more deeply rooted in your love. You call us not only to teach, but to invite others to join us in the building of your kingdom. Give us the courage to invite, the wisdom to plan, and the humility to know that all we do is for you. Help us to see every donor not as a transaction, but as a companion in mission. May we always remember we're not just raising money, we're raising hope, raising faith, raising up the next generation of saints. Bless every school that seeks to grow its mission. Bless every family who gives from the heart, and bless the work of development. That may always be ministry, rooted in love, anchored in community, and guided by your spirit. Amen. So, we have covered a lot of ground. And in this last workshop, we're going to cover even more. So the first two were mainly trying to establish the philosophy and the background and the foundation for a solid Catholic school development / advancement effort. Today, we're going to talk about how do we sustain this rhythm? How do we grow? How do we address inviting people to invest in our Catholic schools? And how can we do this by building the village? and then finally some parting thoughts. So as we look at it, and once again, as we know, this is the book that we're working out of. It was released by NCA last June. And so we're going to go through a bunch of steps. And all of this will be sent to you. All of this is in the book. So steps 14 and 15, we're going to talk about enrollment management. And we're also going to talk about the ultimate question survey. With steps 16 and 17, we're going to talk about your written strategic plan for development and creating your top 10 selling points in your wow and what that is and how to do it. Step 18 is going to talk about do you have your parents and others telling you that you're nickel and diming them to death? Do you have too many fundraising events? We're going to show you how to organize all that and also form your ambassador teams. Then in step 20 and 21, we're going to get into the financial piece. How do we identify financial leaders, engage them? How do we organize and implement an annual fund? In step 22 and 23, what about our alums? How can we get them more engaged? And then step 23 is dealing with professional growth. How can we, as professionals in this work, in this ministry, how do we grow? And then step 24 is going to talk about the many ways we invite people to financially invest through capital campaigns, plan giving, memorial giving, endowment growth. Step 25 is a theme that I'm very plugged into: get busy living and get busy dying. It's a quote from the Shawshank Redemption. And then finally, step 26, how do we keep building the village? And then there's be some parting thoughts. So we have a lot of ground to cover. And once again, I want to emphasize again and again that all of this is in the book, which can be ordered from NCA publications. So if I cover a step and you say, gosh, there's not a lot here, well, it's all in the book. Okay, so organize and implement a vibrant enrollment management system. I think the key word there is system. Back many years ago when I got involved in this, we called this student recruitment. And then gradually what happened over a period of time is that we, as first of all, it was the religious community-owned Catholic secondary schools. Then it was the diocesan high schools. Then it was the elementary schools, Catholic elementary schools. We began to adapt the language of enrollment management. Okay? How do we manage the enrollment from attracting a family to bringing them into, bringing them apply, having them become students, and then finally graduate? So organize and implement a vibrant enrollment management plan. So these are the two statements we've always made. Enrollment management is the most important area to address in any Catholic school. Now, I've gotten a lot of pushback from this through the years because I've had pastors and principals and presidents and others say, no, it's not. Most important thing is our Catholic identity. Most important thing is our academic excellence. And my point is, I get that. I understand that. But without students, you're not going to be able to do anything about your academic excellence. You're not going to be able to evangelize. You're not going to be able to do anything with your mission and Catholic identity unless you have students. So it is the most important area to address. Okay? And with that, we have to also make another statement. And this is one that is hard for people to understand. Enrollment management is the responsibility of everyone in a Catholic school. Everyone. Administration, faculty, staff, board, the council, the parent leaders, and the students. It's everyone's responsibility. Okay, I always reference a school that we write about in the book that basically the principal took this to heart. And he said, I agree with what's being said here. And so we're going to make this our top priority moving forward out of our strategic plan. And every single faculty meeting, he presented an enrollment data sheet of every class and how many people they had in it, how many spots they had room for, and he showed this at every faculty meeting and he posted it. When they lost a student that week, everyone knew what grade that was coming from. It has to be shared in faculty and staff meetings, in parent meetings, with your student council, in your board meetings. This information must be shared, okay, in terms of where you are, where you need to get, and what you have room for. So with this in mind, there is a dashboard that we created several years ago, and it has 15 dots on the dashboard. And basically, these dots on the dashboard say, when it comes to enrollment management, like we showed you in the last workshop, when it comes to communication, these are the pieces that make up the enrollment management efforts of a Catholic school. So a lot of the schools we work with in consulting or coaching, they love this visual, because many people say, well, to the admissions director, the enrollment management director, the development director, or whomever, what are y'all doing in enrollment management? And they can present this visual and basically say, these are the things we're doing. We have our database. We do research with surveys. We have our top 10 selling points in our wow. We have an interactive website. We have definitely good social media. We have weekly publications that go out. We have different letters that we can send to different prospective families at different times. We do an open house. We do, get involved, with Catholic Schools Week. We have some advertising and signage. We do things like summer camps and tours and clinics and everything like this. We have promotional activities. We make presentations in our feeder schools and our feeder parishes and civic organizations. Our parents host neighborhood receptions in their home. We have good retention because we do back to school night, and really build that in. We educate our parents on the gap. We do exit interviews when a family leaves, so we know why they're leaving. Could we have done something better? And we do person-to-person work. We get to know our families. So you may look at the 15 dots on this dashboard, and you may say, Frank, there's no way we're doing all this. And I would be shocked if you were doing all this. But what it does do, it does give you a really good read on what you could do. Okay? And so this is what we mean when we talk about enrollment management and the many aspects of enrollment management. Now, we're going to talk about it in just a minute, but closely related, don't forget now, the name of this book is The Cadence of Catholic School Development. The cadence, okay? There are steps to be taken in a logical order. So the next step is conduct the ultimate question survey with all school constituents. Now, this is very important to enrollment management, because basically what you're doing, the ultimate question survey, is the survey that says, on a scale from 0 to 10, with 10 being highly likely, 0 being not at all likely, how likely is it that you would recommend the name of your Catholic school to your family, friends, relatives, and colleagues? That's the first part A. Part B, if you did not give us a score of 10, what would we need to do to bring your score closer to 10 the next time we invited you to take this survey within the next year? And then part C, if you gave us a 9 or 10, why did you promote us so highly? Now, we love this survey. We must do this in 20, 30, 40, 50 times a year with our coaching and consulting clients. We love it because it's easy to administer. We created a SurveyMonkey, but you can do it in all kinds of other platforms. It can be answered in less than 3 or 4 minutes. You get those quantitative and qualitative results, and you get your net promoter score, which I'll talk about in a minute. We say administer the survey every year at the same time and see how your net promoter score improves. Now is the perfect time. Okay, the end of April. Okay, you got Holy Week coming up, you got Easter week and spring break coming up. As you get to that last week of April, the last week of April, that first week of March, that's the perfect time to conduct it. Okay? And who you say, well, who do we send this to? Well, you send it to your parents. You send it to your faculty staff. You send it to your board members. If you're a high school, you send it to all your students. if you're in elementary school, you send it to your middle school students. You send it to your alumni. If you're a parochial school, you send it to your parishioners. You send it to your parents and grandparents. Your past parents and your grandparents. If you have a good database, which we talked about in the last workshop, you send this out, and here's the best way to do it. Okay, let's say you were going to plan to send this out, and I'm just going to give you a timeline. Okay, let's say you're going to plan to send this out. And so what I would do the week of April 27th, usually spring breaks are over by then, I would send out an announcement that this is coming. Okay, to everyone. An announcement that this is coming. Be on the lookout for. This is very important as we plan for 26, 27. Okay. Then the next week, the week of May 4th, that's when I would push this out. Here's what I would do. I would send it out electronically with a letter, with a link to take the survey. That's on Monday, April 4th. Okay. On Friday, April 8th, I would send a reminder with the link again on the 8th. Okay. Then on Wednesday, April 13th, I would send another reminder saying the survey is closing in 2 days. And then on Friday, April 15th, I would send a final reminder and say, survey closing today. Now you may say, oh, that's too much, Frank. Our people don't want to read that much. All I'm doing is telling you after conducting this hundreds of times, that is the way to get the best results. And once again, please don't just do this with your parents. Notice the audience as I indicated, your parents, your faculty staff, your board, your students. If you're high school, all of them. If you're elementary school, middle school students, okay? Your alumni. If you're a parochial school, all your parishioners. Your alums, those who have good records on alums and past parents and grandparents. There's 7, 8, 9, 10 different audiences. And you look at the bottom left now, okay? The people who give you a 0 to 6 are your detractors. They're not talking that well about your school out in the community, to their neighbors, to their friends, colleagues. They're detractors. The 7s and 8s are your passives. They're your passives. They're not saying anything bad about you, not saying anything good about you. And then the 9s and 10s are your promoters. They're promoting your school. Okay? They're your promoters. So in order to get your NPS, which is your net promoter score, you take the percentage of promoters and you take your percentage of detractors. Now, you do not count your passives, okay? You do not count your passives. And then from that, okay, you get a score range. Score range. And if you do it, all you have to do is to shoot me an email, and my email address is back, and I'll tell you how you score risk. The main thing you want to do is you want to do it every year, because that way you can track your NPS score. Okay? Step 15, conduct the ultimate question survey. So now you've gathered all this information, and now you move to step 16. Create the written strategic plan for development. Okay? Now, most Catholic schools have a long-range plan of some kind. And usually that long-range plan is built around the 4 domains of mission and Catholic identity, governance and leadership, academic excellence, and operational vitality. Most schools we work with, coach and consult with, and come to our summer development school and take our University of Dayton classes. They do not have a written strategic plan for development. They do not have that. Okay? They do not have it. All right? So here's what I'm going to do. Okay? We're working and coaching all of the Catholic schools in the Archdiocese of New Orleans, all 60 to 70 schools. We're coaching them this year, 8 coaching sessions and 4 workshops. We have created a template for those schools to create a written strategic plan for development with their calendar for 26, 27 that all of them are working on. And that written strategic plan is to be filed in the superintendent's office by June 30th. Now, those of you that would like to have a copy, I'm not just going to send it out to everybody. This gets lost in the mailbox. But at the end of this presentation, you'll see my email address. It's frank@ispdconsulting.com. All you have to do is shoot me an email, and I will send you this template. Okay? I will send you this template because the template is built around creating a plan around those 6 boxes: constituent records, communications, enrollment management, fund development. That's the annual fund, capital campaign, endowment growth, grant writing, the memorial giving, plan giving, etc. Major gift portfolio work, and then alum involvement and fundraising events. But it's a template that you can use. Okay? But once again, I'm not just going to blanket it out. I would like for those who are interested, just shoot me an email and I'll send you that template. Okay, I'll send you that template. So that written strategic plan. In the book, there is a detailed process of how to create this plan. Okay, a detailed process. Okay, step 17. Remember I said earlier, this whole idea of engaging people becomes really important. I'm going to spend a little time on this. In the book, it gives you all the steps, but I'm going to talk about this. This is something that as a company we created about 15 to 20 years ago. Hundreds of Catholic schools have used this. And I'm going to share with you what it is. Right? The outcome of this is a school that we work with in the Archdiocese of Baltimore, an all-girls high school, Mount DeSales Academy. This is their top 10 selling points that they created. Now, let me explain how they got this. This is the key. All right? I'm going to go back to a previous step. Remember, this is the cadence we're taking. So the cadence. One of the previous steps was involve everyone in enrollment management efforts. Enrollment management is the responsibility of everyone. Okay? Remember that step. This is a way to do that. Let us say you select, you, meaning the principal, or the admissions director, or the advancement director, or whomever. You choose, let's say, 4 or 5 audiences. First audience to choose, faculty staff. Next one, student council. Next one, your board. Next one, your parent leaders, PTA group. Let's just take those 4. So I'm going to go to my faculty and staff, and I'm going to say to them, and I do it the old-fashioned way when I do this type of stuff, and you can do it the same way. You can use a computer and project it up. The key is all eyes have to be on the same visual. I'm old-fashioned. I like sticky note flip chart paper, right? So I would open up, if I was the principal, I would open up that faculty staff meeting and say, listen, over the next month or 2, we want to create our selling points for 26, 27. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take 10 or 15 minutes and we're going to brainstorm. Brainstorm. Any idea is a great idea. So what I'd like for you to share with me, as we market and sell our school for 26, 27, what are the main selling points that we want to emphasize about Our Lady of Lourdes, about St. Dominic, about St. Luke the Evangelist? What are the main selling points we want to emphasize? The floor is now open. We've got Mary or Joe here writing down your thoughts by bullet points. And then you brainstorm. It's a wonderful discussion, and you have wonderful ideas. Let's say you end up with 20 ideas. Okay? 20 ideas. Now here, that's all this is in the book. So please don't get too lost in the weeds. Let's say you end up with 20 ideas. If you're familiar with multi-voting, it is when you have a list of items and you divide the list in half and have everyone vote for them. So let's say you got 20 items. So if I'm the principal, I'm going to say, okay, folks, you all came up with 20 great ideas, but we want 10. Okay? Here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like for you, out of the 20, so you don't get confused. Let's say you ended up with 24 ideas. Okay? 24 ideas. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take I'm going to divide 24 in half, and that leaves me 12. I want you to take the 12 ideas that you would like, that you like the best, and just circle, just write down the number. Write down the number. Okay. If I had 30, it'd be 15. If I had 17, it would be 8.5. I'd round it up to 9. I'm just dividing the list in half. And then I'm going to go down and I'm going to say, how many voted for number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, on through 24, and my top 10 vote getters are my top 10 selling points from that faculty staff. I'm going to do the same thing with the parents. I'm going to do the same thing with the student leaders. I'm going to do the same thing with the board. Each of those 4 audiences represent probably 50 to 100 people or more. Then I'm going to take those 4 top 10s and I'm going to bring it to my executive committee. Remember that executive committee? That was step 2 back in workshop number 1. There's a cadence here. Okay, step 2. Form that executive committee. I'm going to say, okay, folks, these are the 4 top 10s. And what you'll notice is you're going to have so much crossover, so many similarities. And then the executive committee comes up with the final 10. This is about the Sales Academy, their final 10. Okay? Then, in every one of those 4 sessions, after I've got my top 10, I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to say, what is our wow? You shared with me the selling points, but what is our wow? And let me explain what I mean by wow. Wow is no other school can say this but you. When you say this to people, the reaction should be, wow, really? So no other Catholic school, private school, public school, charter school, any kind of school can say this but you. Now, that doesn't make you better than them. That just indicates that this is special. This is distinguishing for you. And sometimes the wow takes a little while to get to. Now, the Sales Academy is pretty simple. Number 9 is the wow. You can't go anywhere in that school without passing through the chapel. The chapel is the center of the school. And that is one of the schools that is run by the Sisters of St. Cecilia. We effectively call them the Nashville Dominicans. So once again, this is a wonderful exercise. And then you have your marketing language moving into 26, 27. Because in most Catholic schools, like we talked about before, the marketing language, the promotional language, is usually created by 3, 4, 5 people, or some people hire an outside firm. So that's step 17, ties into enrollment management, goes back to the executive committee. Okay? Now, as we move toward inviting people for financial giving, we got to make sure that we get our fundraising events organized and in check. Now, this is a chart that we created a number of years ago. We refined it. But basically, this is what we call the ISBD fundraising chart. FR stands for fundraiser. So here's the best way to do this. If you have a lot of fundraising events and activities, then what some schools have done, they've taken this chart and they've blown it up. I had one school when we worked in the Archdiocese of Minneapolis, St. Paul with Cisco. I had one school that took this chart and they taped together 4 poster boards into one large visual, and they had somebody in the art department create this. So they wrote the fundraiser like auction, gala, golf tournament, candy sale, whatever it may be, spring mulch sale, Christmas tree sale, whatever it is, whatever it is, ads for the band boosters, the ad for the football program, whatever it is, you're writing it down. Who sponsors it? Who sponsors it? What month of the year is it? How much did it gross the last time you did it? How much did it actually make? What were the number of people who were involved in it? And approximately how many people hours did it take? Then you put a check mark to anybody, any group that supported it. Okay? You put a check mark to any group that supported it. So if, for example, your parents supported it, you check the P. Parishioners, check the PR. Alums, check the A. You can read all across. Now, what do you do with this once you've created it? You call everybody into a room after you've created it. You meeting the principal, you meeting the development director, you meeting a board member, you meeting members of the executive committee. That's how important the executive. Everybody into the room, you put the visual up on the wall. And having facilitated a meeting like this recently, because the school asked me to do it, I said, here is the visual of every fundraising event you do in your school. Even the Girl Scout cookie sale that you allow them to do. Okay? And this one school had 23 fundraisers. I said, here's what we want you to do. I want you all to go and stand. It's on the wall. It was on a wall. I want you to go stand and look at this. Take 5 or 10 minutes just to study it. Okay? And when you finish, please go back and sit down. That way we'll know that you've read the book, read the visual. It took them about, I think it was 10 to 15 minutes that they studied that chart. And they looked at it. Then they all went and sat down. And then, I said to them, I was facilitating the meeting, I said, what does this visual tell us about the fundraising events here at the school? And we opened it up for discussion. And it was a very good discussion, very positive discussion. Everybody came away understanding and so they came out of this where it was not handed down from on high that you must do this, this, and this. But what resulted out of this was a committee that's going to make sure every fundraising event is approved by June 1st of the next year, making sure that they're limited. So they eventually are going to have only 3 or 4 major school fundraisers and maybe 5 or 6 others. And then it's an approval process. There's a form to fill in. So it is going to, it usually takes, now this may surprise you, it usually takes 2 or 3 years to put this in place. Okay? Doesn't happen overnight. Because you've got people that need their money. And we understand that. Okay? But that's what we mean by this piece here. Step 18. Step 19. Okay. So remember we talked about the fact that this is all about engaging people. Okay? So here's what we hear. If you agree that development's the meaningful involvement of people in your mission and vision, then this needs to be woven throughout. Belonging leads to believing. Okay, we've covered the 7 I's. We've covered the ripples in the pond. We've covered all that. Okay? And so even the principals and presidents and heads of school and pastors say, I'm swamped. I don't have any more time in the day to do anything. I don't have the time to invite all these people. I know what has to be done. I'll just do it myself. That way I'll know it's going to be done right. We don't need people coming here telling us how to run our school. Who's going to manage all these volunteers? I mean, the inmates going to run the asylum. I just need parents to help me in the cafeteria. They can help me in bingo and help me with the 3 main fundraisers. I don't need them giving them not their 2 cents about what we should plan for in the future. Now, I've heard all of these statements. I've heard them all. Okay? The bottom line is, if you view development as an engine, then you've got to fuel it with people. And I'm not saying you've got to have all of these ambassador teams in place. Most of you probably have the first one, a student ambassador team. Okay? But there is a strong case to be made for having a parent and or parish ambassador team. Let's say you had, and you say, well, who's on that team, Frank? Well, let's say you had 8 parishes that fed into your school. In other words, your students came from these parishes. Well, then your parish ambassador team has your present parents coming from those parishes who serve on that ambassador team. And when announcements need to be made, when things need to be done, when communication needs to be had, when you need to do surveys, when you need to get input, they're responsible for making that happen in their parish. That's their parish. They go into your school, but that's their parish. Okay? That's what we mean by these ambassador teams, all in the book. Okay? So, oh yeah, that last one. I wish I had the organizational structure set up to invite more people, but I don't. Well, if you have an executive committee and you have a core team, then you have the organizational structure to set this up. We covered executive committee in the first workshop. We covered core team in the second workshop. The cadence, once again, cadence. Step 20, identify top financial leaders and engage them for the long term. Now, here's what we're coaching in New Orleans and what we coach in our University of Dayton classes. All of you have financial leaders. All of you. Now you may say, well, what do you mean by a financial leader, Frank? A financial leader, now notice my language. A financial leader is someone who could possibly consider a $1,000 gift every year to your Catholic school. Notice the language, though. I didn't say they would give it. I said they could possibly consider. Okay? Now, with that analogy, okay, what we charge our coaching and consulting clients with, and our students in our UD classes, we say to them, I want you to come up with your top 25 financial leaders. And there'll be some pushback from some schools saying, I can't identify 25. I'll say, well, identify 5 or 10, but at least identify. Get them down on paper, okay? Get them down on paper. And so as you look at that, and look at the little diagram to the left, look at your school leaders, look at your board and the people who support your annual fund and your fundraisers, or maybe supported your last capital campaign. Look at your active parents and alums who are involved in your school. Look out into the community and into the wider public. Once again, those circles of engagement. But right now, identify. Some of you can identify 100 and 200. Okay? We're working a capital campaign in a parish and a school right now. I was there last night, and we presented to the capital campaign cabinet. These are all the op chairs and division chairs of the capital campaign. We presented a list of over 300 people that were the financial leaders in that parish. It's a parish of around 4,000 families. But you may not be that one. You may have a school of 100 students and a parish of 250 families. And so you may say, well, I don't have 25, and that's fine. That's fine. But start somewhere, even if you get 5 or 10 down on paper. And you, meaning the president, the principal, the development director, alum director, board member, once again, you've got to get it down on paper. Okay? And so what do you do with it when you get it down on paper? Well, you begin then to cultivate it. You've identified, now you got to cultivate. And so it's all in the book, okay? And there's a lot of pushback to this by Catholic school leaders. I don't have time to do this, okay? But what we say is every month, we'll give you a benchmark. Every month, we're suggesting that you have a conversation, eyeball to eyeball, every month with 5 of those people on your list. Now, that doesn't mean go invite them to give to you financially. That just means you have a conversation. Let me explain what that conversation looks like and sounds like. Well, let's say you have 25 people on your list, and let's say this month you want to reach out to 5 of them, okay? And so you can either shoot an email indicating you're going to be calling, or you can simply pick up the phone. Because most of the people you're going to first identify, people on your board, your parent leaders, your alum leaders, etc. And so, then they already be giving me a school, that's fine, but you need to cultivate more. Okay? You need to get to know them better. And so here's a sample conversation. I'm going to say I'm the principal of your school. Okay? And I would say, I'm calling Bob or Sal. And I'm saying, hi, Bob, this is Frank Donaldson here at Our Lady of Lourdes. Just wanted to reach out to you. Hope things are going well. Bob, I'd like to share with you something we're doing here at the school that's rather new. But what we are doing is I've identified about 15 or 20 people that I'd like to kind of get to know you better and seek your best wisdom. We're moving toward the future with an ambitious strategic plan and vision. And we have, obviously, when you do something like that, we have 2 or 3 challenges that we're faced with. And I've identified, 10 or 15, 20 people that I'd like to sit down, just have a cup of coffee. And you're one of those people, one of those leaders that I'd like to get to know better and pick your brain with something. Could we find time over the next couple of weeks to have you either come to school, or we could have lunch, breakfast, have a cup of coffee, meet at the Starbucks, whatever, where I can share a couple of these challenges with you and just pick your brain and get some answers and see how what thoughts you'd have about this. Okay. Now, that type of invitation meets with 80 to 90% success. Why it doesn't? Number one, you're the principal calling. Number two, you making a personal phone call. Number three, you're not sending an email or a letter. Number four, you're letting them know they're part of a special group. Number five, you're letting them know you'd like to meet with them in person for about 30, 45 minutes. And number six, you're letting them know what you want to do in that conversation. That's why people say yes. Then you go to that meeting, that cup of coffee meeting. You bring your 1 or 2 challenges with you, whatever they may be. Okay? Whatever they may be. Bob, we're getting ready to start a development office. First time at the school. Any thoughts on how we should put that in place and what kind of person we should be looking to hire? That's an example of what we've seen before. Always in the conversation with Bob, as we move forward, is it okay if I reach out to you from time to time, pick your brain, and ask for your best wisdom? All the more say yes. Okay? What's interesting is 50% of the people that you visit with like that are going to suggest and want to become more involved. So identify them and then begin to engage them for the long term. Step 21, organize and implement your annual fund drive. Now, as we said, look at this sentence to the right. The annual fund is the single most important development dollars effort that a Catholic school could ever implement. Okay, remember we talked about in step 4, back in the first workshop, the difference between transactional culture and relational culture. The first one you buy and sell, the second one you build relationships and invite people to invest. This is what the annual fund should do. You're not selling a raffle ticket. You're not asking for somebody to sponsor the 18th hole of the golf tournament. You're inviting people to invest. Okay? So once again, you've got to invite them to belong before you invite them to invest. So it's really important, okay? Really important that we realize that with this piece, this step is divided into 5 components. Okay, in the book, you have a chart that shows you the suggested organizational structure for an annual fund. Okay, there's a self-assessment test, sort of like the development assessment we set last workshop for you to gauge how your annual fund's doing. There's a glossary of annual fund terms. There's a unique approach to determining annual fund success, and there is a document called the value of giving days tied into your annual fund. So if you're not doing an annual fund, okay, you're missing out on one of the major ways to invite people to invest. Because an annual fund is basically, if you look at the visual to the left, excuse me, you got your first-time donors, you got your general annual fund, mid-level, and major donors, major legacy gifts. The annual fund usually has a number of divisions. There's the major gift division, $1,000 and above. The leadership gift division, faculty, staff, and board. And in the annual fund, here's where it may throw you. The annual fund should invite 3 gifts: the gift of prayer, the gift of service, and the gift of financial participation. Most annual funds in Catholic schools just want the money. Well, we don't agree with that. We like it to invite 3 gifts. And so on your intention card, not your pledge cards, on your intention card, you should have that listed, your gift of prayer, and different options, and you should have an annual fund prayer card for every annual fund. Pray regularly, the annual fund prayer card. Pray the success of the annual fund. say a novena for the success of the annual fund. Pray the rosary for the success of the annual fund. Become an adorer in the adoration chapel. I mean, whatever it may be, list the options. And in service, give 3 or 4 examples how it could be of service for the development of it. Then finally, financial participation. All is in the book. The annual fund is the anchor to your development dollars effort. Okay, it is the anchor. Now, while you're doing all this, you want to form that alum organizational committee, because most of the time we hear that, alums don't get involved in our school. It all starts out, the first step, people will say, what do we do first? And we always say, you need to form an alum organizational committee. Okay? It's a group of 10 to 15 alums representing various decades or years, depending on how old your school is. And they're going to become involved and focus on the following: that alum database for each class, alum communication, doing a homecoming every year, alum social sports tournaments. One of the best things I've heard from a school, just in one of my students in my University of Dayton class in the fall semester said, what, your friend said, all of those kids that graduating, okay, this is elementary school, all those kids that graduated in the last 4 years, and even sometimes 5 or 6, who are now in high school and college, we invite them back to a volleyball tournament between Christmas and New Year's. They come back for a volleyball tournament. They're home, though they're off for vacation from the high school. And so we have an alumni volleyball tournament, and they all get their teams together. And this one school, said, we had as many as 12 teams this year. Once again, belonging leads to believing. People become involved. Sports tournaments for unions. If you're high school, you should have decade chairs and class reps. All of this is written about in the book. But there in that visual to the left, there's that alumni or alumnae if you're an all-girls school. Okay? But it should be built around these pieces. Okay? Should be built around these pieces. Good database and records. Good communication. Homecoming. Every year, have a homecoming. Socials. Sports tournaments. Reunions. And then once again, decade chairs and class reps if you're a high school. If you're in elementary school, maybe you could do decade chairs. Step 23. 2 big things here. Okay? 1, professional growth. Now, I've mentioned to you about our summer development school in New Orleans. That's an example of professional growth. The week after Easter is the NCAA convention in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Professional growth. Okay? Let me share 7 benefits of doing this. You can get away, even if the conference is in your city, but you can step out of your daily pace. Okay? You can network with other people from other areas of the country who do the same thing as you. Go to the NCAA convention, go to the ISPD Summer Development School. You're going to network with people from other areas. Okay? You're going to learn new concepts and processes, or simply reinforce. Those of you who have been doing this for a long time, it probably will just affirm what you're doing. Okay? You're going to receive resource material. Okay? Either the NCAA convention, ISPD Summer Development School, you're going to get some resource material. You get things you can take back and begin to implement. Okay? You make life look. 2 of my closest friends in this development field I met at a development workshop in Orlando, Florida, okay, in 1987-88. Okay, one of the very few workshops. It was put on by Catholic School Management. It was a 3, 4, 5-day workshop. And my principal sent me to it, and I knew nothing about development. I had no idea what it was. But 2 of my friends that have stayed in touch since then, you can enhance your career by demonstrating a strong commitment to professional development. Don't get caught doing the same thing over and over again. Okay? And then grab some relaxation time. Charge the battery. You got to charge the battery, or you're going to burn out. So that's professional growth. Now, I couple that with the strategic growth plan for your school. Now, this to us this is not the written strategic plan for development. That's just for development. This is a strategic plan for your school. Right now, we're working with a number of schools on helping them create theirs. Okay. But you may or may not need outside facilitation, but there's steps to take. And here are the steps we recommend. Number one, your executive committee's in place. Number two, you assess the state of the school through surveys, questionnaires, interviews, input sessions, ultimate question survey. Great way to start off. Okay. Formation of a steering committee, 15 to 18 leaders. Okay. Decision on what planning areas you plan to use in the planning process, usually growing out of the 4 domains of the NSBEC. Mission and Catholic identity, governance, leadership, academic excellence, operational vitality. You get your planning areas. Okay. Formation of planning teams around those planning areas, where you do the planning teams do a SWOT of their planning area. They create purpose statements, create challenges, create solutions. Okay. And then we like to host a community-wide convocation to solve the challenges and create the final strategic growth plan. Okay. And publicize that strategic growth plan to all constituents. Implement it with planning teams and celebrate success. So this is a 10-step process to create that strategic growth plan. But notice the number of ways you engage people. Executive committee number 1, steering committee number 3, okay? Planning area teams number 5, okay? Convocation number 6. I mean, you're dealing with hundreds and hundreds of people here along ELEs of believing, okay? Really important as we take a look at this, okay? Finally, the step, not finally, because we 2 more after this, but here is that big one. This is that inviting to invest. Capital campaigns, plan legacy giving, memorial giving, endowment growth, and grant writing. Now, capital campaigns, okay? This is so important. I was educated many, many years ago at the University of Notre Dame in development. And I remember attending a workshop there back in the early 90s. I remember the advancement director at the University of Notre Dame saying, a Catholic school should conduct a capital campaign every 10 years, whether they need it or not. I found that statement rather strange. I was a development director at the time, and I started the consulting business part-time. But I found it rather strange, but as I've gone through these last 36 years, I've come to find out, no, that person was right on track. You need a capital campaign every 10 years because it unites, and galvanizes your community around a common theme, around a mission, around a vision, and around what you need to do. Whether it's fuel your endowment, build a new building, or do whatever. Okay? So that capital campaign, every school should have a planned legacy giving program in place. Every school should offer memorial giving. Every school should have an endowment, even if it's $10. Start somewhere. And the biggest trend we've seen in the last 10 years is many capital campaigns. One of the case points of the capital campaign is to fuel the endowment. And every school should be involved in some form with grant writing. Okay? So, and by the way, I'm going to put a little plug in for these guys, but they do a great job. The Catholic Funding Guide. If you're not familiar with it, Google it. Look it up. The Catholic Funding Guide, called the Catholic Funding Guide. John Javlich is the executive director. They do a wonderful job. I think there's a subscription fee, but it's not that expensive. These are the ways we invite people to invest. Okay? The ways we invite people to invest in our Catholic schools. And it's all in the book. Step 25. In the Shawshank Redemption, in that particular movie, you've seen it, one of my favorites. Andy Dufresne looks at Red and says to him, we really have to do one of two things. We got to get busy living, We got to get busy done. And the Catholic school leaders, if our focus is on the business of living, we need to make things happen. We have to have that fire in the belly. We've got to be proactive, not reactive. We've got to make sure that we not just survive, we prevail. We do not sink into mediocrity. And so we always ask the questions, what's going to wake us up? And many of you, I'm sure, are wide awake to all this. When, how, who? And one of the first but yet last steps in the book is building your village. Keep building it. A Catholic school is only as strong as the community that sustains it. Every student, every teacher, every alum, every parent, every past parent, every grandparent, every donor, every parishioner plays a role in the village that ensures its success. And so as you move forward, if you're a pastor, president, principal, lead boldly. If you're a development advancement director, invite constantly, incessantly. If you're an enrollment management director, welcome graciously. If you're an alum, parent, or past parent, or grandparent, stay involved. If you're a teacher, inspire daily. And if you're a donor, invest in the future. If you're a student, carry the mission forward. Once again, the future of Catholic education depends on the strength of the village we build. And unfortunately, for many years, we never built our village. And so we only went to the village when we needed money, or we needed a volunteer, or on the golf tournament, or something like that. So I really encourage us to embrace this cadence, sustain the mission, so that our Catholic schools remain places of faith, excellence, and community for generations to come. In the book, I'd like to read something to you, which I'll close with these parting thoughts. I believe to be successful in anything we do, we have to have passion and a desire to be the very best we can be. I often refer to that as fire in the belly. By that, I do not mean being top dog or star or hot shot. I simply mean taking the gifts that God has given us, developing those gifts, continually working to improve them, and then making them work for the good of our cause. In our work across the country at ISPD, we see many people who possess that fire of the belly. And I'm sure many of you on this call today are there. Pastors, principals, presidents, classroom teachers, advancement directors, administrators, staff members, board members, and others. As Catholic school leaders, we all have similar missions to develop and advance our Catholic institutions by engaging people to help us build in them. And many of us know this work today is not for the weak of heart. It's not for those who clock out at 3:30 p.m. Not for those who want to raise a quick buck or hit somebody up for money. Being part of a vibrant Catholic school is rewarding, enriching, and fulfilling. But it takes a passion, it takes an energy. Where do we develop that? How do we keep it alive? Here we are in March, getting ready to go to Easter break, and another school year be put in the books. How do we move into 26, 27 and come to realize that our work as Catholic school leaders is so much more than running a fundraiser or supervising the playground or proctoring an exam? How do we get away from always measuring what we do by the clock and not the compass? Being a Catholic school leader, so much deeper, as you know. And so I invite you to explore the ways that you could find and or discover that fire in the belly. What pathways and roadways led you to your ministry? As I've done in the past, I'd like to share my journey in closing. I believe it deserves repeat. In 1986, I lost my 5-year-old son, Dustin. He died of an illness that impacts very few children. One day he was here, and 4 days later, he was not. What adds deeper meaning to his passing was that he started complaining about his leg and cramping on Good Friday, and he passed away on Easter Monday afternoon. In the Lenten season, we're getting ready to end the Holy Week. Our family's faith becomes magnified through the remembrance of his death. Dustin was a very likable child, always smiling, always laughing, always having a cheery twinkle in his eye. He attended St. Rosalie Catholic School in Harvey, Louisiana, and was a favorite of many of his teachers and the principal, Sister Jan. He was elected King of the Mardi Gras at the school and loved every minute of the attention. He was hardly ever down or sad, and even when he was punished for doing something crazy, it was only a matter of minutes before he would bounce back. One day, he even came home from school and announced he was going to be a priest, 5 years old and a priest. Although Dustin always had a smile and a kind word, he frequently battled with illnesses. So that week of Easter, it really wasn't a huge surprise when he complained about cramping in his legs. On Friday, his mother took him to the doctor, and then on Saturday, he was in the hospital, mostly just for precaution. On Monday morning, things turned for the worse, and he rushed to the operating room with a heart attack. It was then that we realized he might be in his final hours. I'll never forget the doctor at Oshkosh Hospital coming to us and in tears saying, "We've done all that we can do. Unfortunately, he will not live much longer, so please go now and say your goodbyes." It's funny how moments like that are branded in your mind. I remember walking into the OR and looking at my son as he lay on the operating table. He was in pain, but he still had that smile. As I tried to maintain my composure, he looked up, and the last words he said to me were, "Daddy, I'm going to be with Jesus." Dustin passed away Easter Monday at 3:42 p.m. The next year was a blur. I was offered a teaching job at Mercy Academy in New Orleans, teaching English in the 86-87 school year. Sister Mary Ann Hardcastle, a Mercy sister, hired me. I really don't know how I made it through that year. The pain was great. Getting up every morning was a chore. All of us who have lost loved ones know the feelings and the struggles, and yet there's a faint desire to overcome in those early days, feel something that will take us to the next day, as hard as it was. Two thoughts kept running through my mind that year. I once had a sociology teacher in college, Dr. Ben Kaplan, who told us how much better it is to light a candle than curse the darkness. I remember that. I also remember my son's last word, "Daddy, I'm going to be with Jesus." Those are the two threads that I hung on to. One of hope. I moved on and the healing began. Life may shut a lot of doors, but God always gives us a window somewhere. We just need to find it. Gradually, the pain moved into energy, and I developed a strong desire to do something meaningful, something that would make a difference. I moved into administration, then into development advancement at Mercy Academy. Then in 1989, there was a voice inside of me calling out to begin a new ministry. And so with a leap of real faith, I left the security of a regular Catholic school paycheck and started ISPD and have never looked back. The fire that burned so strongly years ago is still alive, still as powerful as ever. So many times I'll leave home, head out on the road, I'll ask myself, why am I doing this? And the answer comes back immediately. You do it because of Dustin and because you have gifts to share and a family, especially my wife, Susie, and my daughter, Megan, who believe in you and support you. There's a reason my son was able to say what he said. I owe it to the faith community of St. Rosalie Parish and School. They're very instrumental in developing Dustin's faith, so much so that he even considered being a religious, and so much so that his final hours echoed his belief in his maker. He did not get to that point alone. Pastor, principals, teachers were greatly responsible for bringing him to that point in his life. And I cannot help but believe that Christ was there to hold his hand as he crossed to the other side. The death of my son was the birth of his ministry. And my English God gave me lifeline and hope for the future. I've been blessed countless times since 1986, and with my wife, Susie, my daughter, Megan, and my older daughters, Lisa, Shannon, and Cherie, 9 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. In fact, my oldest grandson, Jordan, was born the day after Dustin's birthday, September 26th. God works in wonderful ways. Years ago, we started the Dustin Ewing Memorial Scholarship at St. Rosalie. For a graduation, a member of our family has the opportunity to award an outstanding graduate continuing his or her education in a Catholic high school with scholarship money for their first year. Faculty and staff vote on the recipient based upon the traits we always attributed to Dustin. Courage, pleasing, smiling personality, always reaching out to help others, unconditional love, belief in the love of Jesus Christ, polite and well-mannered. A plaque with Dustin's picture and the names of the recipients for each year hang in the lobby of St. Rosalie Catholic School in Harvey, Louisiana. Fire in the belly pushes us onward, brings about introspection, motivation, and purpose. My journey is not unique, for there are hundreds just like me. However, my quest has always been the same: to work with the diocese or a Catholic school or a parish, and through the gifts God has given me, really make a difference in helping build a stronger faith community, and possibly even in a smaller degree, through this ministry, help bring others and myself closer to Christ, so that we all in our final hour may be able to answer and say, "Daddy, I'm going to be with Jesus." As you move forward in your work, take heart knowing you're not alone. The success of Catholic schools does not rest on one person or one strategy. It thrives when a village of committed individuals comes together to support and sustain it. Lead with conviction, engage with passion, build with faith, and always believe in the power of your mission and vision. The work is never done, but it's always worth it. As the Archbishop Oscar Romero prayer says, it's a step along the way. But there is a cadence, there is an order, and to prevail, the dots need to connect. Let us continue building this village together. So, once again, our Summer Development School, you've already seen this. And this is my email address for those of you that would like to have a copy of that template. You can just simply, indicate that. And I'm going to stop the screen share. I'll keep it and keep this slide up there. And Jim, I'll go to you in terms of any questions or anything in the chat room or whatever.
No questions in the chat. A lot of people saying thank you. We appreciate it. A couple people saying they'll be reaching out to you by email.
Okay. Well, Jim, I've thoroughly enjoyed sharing this with you.
Yes.
Hopefully this has been beneficial. And once again, like I said, the closing part of the book is all about making sure we have the passion to continue what we're doing.
Perfect. Well, Frank, on behalf of all of us, I want to extend our deepest gratitude to you for being with us today and sharing this great three-part series on sustainable Catholic school development. To our online attendees, thank you for being here and being engaged throughout. We hope to see you at the NCEA convention in Minneapolis in just a few weeks. Please take a moment to complete the brief survey that I just dropped into the chat. We value your input, and then this will also get you your certificate of completion. So take a minute to fill out that survey. And again, Frank, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.